They say you have to discipline kids early, so I was sent to a Shaolin temple to train in martial arts when I was little. Every kid my age in the Beijing elite circle had felt the consequences of crossing me at least once. So when I grew up and found out these privileged girls had turned into spoiled troublemakers, using their family names to push people around over some guy, every elder in the circle came to me personally and asked me to step in again. And when the male lead thought he could hold the fates of several powerful families in his hands, and tried to muscle his way into the Mu family's business, I showed up with my whip. The moment they saw me, the entire private room went dead silent. Even the music cut out. Little Uncle Wang Jiaojiao's glass slipped from her fingers and thudded onto the carpet. The liquor spread across the fabric, leaving a dark stain. The smile on her face froze and then gave way to pure disbelief. One after another, things started dropping. Mu Yeye's glass slipped right out of her hand and cracked against the coffee table. Shen Yuchu lurched to her feet and knocked over an already empty bottle beside her. Mei Liangxin had choked on a sip of wine and was turning red, trying to suppress the coughing, but didn't dare make a sound. Two of the younger girls had already grabbed each other out of sheer panic. Jibo Chang was completely blindsided by all of this. He looked at the young man standing at the entrance, then looked around at these people who had gone completely still, like someone had grabbed them by the throat. A heavy sense of unease clenched tight around his chest. I stepped slowly into the private room, the whip hanging loose in my hand, dragging silently along the floor. Hope I'm not interrupting. Shen Yuchu's lips trembled as she forced out a smile. We couldn't be more glad you're here. I gave a faint smile. Wang Jiaojiao, you dropped your glass. Wang Jiaojiao jolted and immediately bent down to pick it up, but her hands were shaking so badly. She fumbled twice before she got a grip and went completely quiet. I spoke in a flat, even tone, but Wang Jiaojiao's knees gave out, and she sank to the floor in front of me. Wang Jiaojiao's voice was trembling, her eyes already going red. She cradled the glass like it was a live grenade. No, uncle, I didn't. Only then did I slowly shift my gaze over to Mei Liangxin. Mei Liangxin was still fighting down the coughs, her face burning red. The moment she met my eyes, she nearly lost it completely. I asked her, was the drink good? Mei Liangxin shook her head furiously, grabbed a handful of ice from the bucket, shoved it into her mouth, and lowered her head as deep as it would go under Jibo Chang's horrified stare. I left her there and let my eyes drift to the crystal award sitting on the coffee table. It had Best Newcomer of the Year engraved on it, catching the light and scattering it in little fragments. I suddenly spoke, my voice giving nothing away. Yet every woman in that room felt a chill crawl straight up their spine. Mu Yeye, I heard from your uncle that a while back, you all pressured Yulu into posting a public apology on social media. I picked up the long whip and ran my calloused fingertips along it. I've been gone from Beijing for a few years and look how bold you've all gotten. Since when does a daughter of the Mu family get bullied by a bunch of ungrateful little snakes like you? Get on your knees. The words had barely left my mouth, and several of them hit the floor on pure reflex. Jibo Chang was completely stunned. These women, who normally got anything they asked for, were now kneeling in front of me like scolded children. I swung the whip and it landed across Shen Yuchu's back. Her body seized up and she bit down hard. Didn't dare beg for mercy, threatening to cut ties with your own family. Another crack of the whip without giving her a chance to explain, forcing Mu Yeye to apologize. Two livid welts rose across Shen Yuchu's back, her face twisted in agony. But she didn't make a single sound. She didn't even dare bend her knees. Mu Yeye had been privately relieved that since Chu had been hit first, maybe she'd be spared. That thought had barely crossed her mind when the pain hit. I looked at her coldly. Have you actually achieved any of your own dreams? Mu Yeye tears welled up at the corners of her eyes, but she shouted her answer loud and clear. No, uncle, I have not. I rose from the bar stool and brought the whip down 4 more times, working through all 6 women except Jibo Chang. Jibo Chang had completely shut down. She had curled herself into the corner of the sofa with her hand over her mouth, wanting desperately to run, but her legs wouldn't work. She couldn't move at all. I pulled a few tissues from the coffee table, wiped the traces of blood from the whip. If the pain means you'll remember why you got it today, then it was worth it. Now all of you get out of here, go kneel at the ancestral hall. Nobody gets up until after sunrise tomorrow. The 6 of them struggled to push themselves to their feet, the pain so intense it kept blacking out their vision. But they knew no matter how much it hurt, they had to get up, because if they failed to carry out what Uncle had ordered, what was waiting for them would be far worse. The compound was full of relatives all connected by blood or marriage, and the Mu family was the undisputed head of that entire extended network. I was the youngest son of the Mu family patriarch, born with every privilege in the world, and if not for a wandering monk's prophecy, I never would have spent 24 years away, only coming home briefly each winter and summer break. A couple days ago, word got out that I'd finished handling my master's funeral arrangements and returned home, and these relatives knew that when their kids got out of hand and their own parents couldn't rein them in, they'd need Uncle to sort things out. They just hadn't expected this day to come so fast now. They were shaking as they hauled themselves up, biting their lips until they drew blood. Jibo Chang watched helplessly as they stumbled out of the private room in a sorry state, leaning on each other for support. The room settled into silence and I moved step by step toward Jibo Chang. Jibo Chang wanted to back away, but his body had gone stiff and wouldn't respond. I picked up the award from the table, looked it over for a moment, and then set it back in Jibo Chang's hands. Allow me to introduce myself, Mr. Ji. My name is Mu Wudao. I'm the uncle of this bunch of useless troublemakers. Nice to meet you. I hope we'll get along. The familiar weight in his hands helped Jibo Chang recover a sliver of composure. He replied quietly, hello. The corner of my mouth curved into a gentle smile. I held Jibo Chang's gaze for a few seconds, then turned and walked out of the private room, leaving Jibo Chang alone in the lavish space. A few minutes passed and then he clutched the award tightly and bolted without looking back by the time I took the elevator down to the underground parking garage. The women who had just been whipped were standing near the elevator doors, heads bowed, looking like they'd been left out in the frost. I wound the cleaned whip around my waist, forget the way home already. Or are you worried about what I might do to Jibo Chang? I said what they were thinking out loud. The women bowed their heads even lower, their prayer beads sliding into their palms. Clicking softly as they turned, I'd suggest you all worry about yourselves first. We still haven't settled the Muyang Spring account. Several faces went even paler. They didn't dare stay a second longer and hobbled out together to flag down a ride. By the time I got back to the Mu family estate, the parents from the other families had already arrived, all of them there to witness their daughter's humiliation. I walked into a living room packed with people and felt a mild sense of exasperation. Shen Jianguo looked at me eagerly. So uncle, how did it go? They still listen to you, right? I took the teacup a maid offered me and took a sip, then answered without any rush, gave them each a round with a whip. They're cooperative enough. Mei Mingke slapped his thigh. They deserved every bit of it. Little brats. Yang Qin's eyes were red as she said, Uncle, we can't thank you enough today. If it weren't for you, we'd still be getting stomped all over by those little menaces. The others chimed in. Seriously, uncle? These kids have been getting more out of hand by the day lately. They won't listen to a word we say, and they keep acting like we're out of touch and don't understand how hard Jibucheng works. Thank goodness you're back. I set down my teacup. The clean, crisp sound brought the room to a gradual quiet. It's normal for kids to grow up and have their own ideas. But when those ideas start targeting their own family, that's when they need a correction. Wang Zhou's father looked guilty. Uncle, you just got back, and we're already putting this mess on you. At the end of the day, we failed to raise them, right? I smiled and said, we're all family, no need for that. While we were talking, a faint rustling sound drifted in from outside. Everyone in the living room looked toward the entrance at once, but the footsteps drew near, and then faded. It sounded like they were heading toward the ancestral hall in the back courtyard. Shen Jianguo said with some surprise. Uncle, about the kids. I slid the prayer beads back onto my wrist. I had them go kneel at the ancestral hall. Wang Chengren shot up from the sofa, his voice buzzing with amused excitement. I have to see this. The others weren't far behind, and they all filed toward the back door of the living room. The moonlight outside the ancestral hall was cold and still. Shen Yuchu and Mu Yeye and the rest knelt through the pane, perfectly upright before the closed doors of the hall, though every face was whiter than the last. The courtyard gate swung open with a bang and a crowd of parents led by Shen Jianguo poured in, every face wearing the look of someone watching a show. Wang Chengren circled slowly around Wang Zhao as she knelt, making appreciative sounds. Well, look at that. Your uncle's got quite the precise technique. Wang Zhao was shaking with pain.